Now we go to the next part before the break, which is a panel to be led by Serge. Serge is the same Serge as a few hours ago, so I would not, unless you have accepted new positions in the past too. He's a still advisor and a senior scientist in the TNO as well. So Serge, yes. It is. I'm not going to introduce you one more time, I guess. So this is your show. So you let us know what you want to.
Yeah, before I call the panelists here, I would like to do a very brief exercise with you, and I was so much tempted. I mean, I haven't written on these blackboards for so long. Sorry, Hadi, I'm going to do that. I want to do a little test with you just to see what your opinion is. I would like to ask you what you think is the main challenge or the main barrier to implementation and upscaling of hydrogen. And we have heard some terms, but I was just curious what you think. First, I have to get used again. Don't press too hard. The first one is technology. Technology versus economics. What would be, let's say, who thinks that technology will be the biggest barrier for hydrogen storage? You can raise your hands, and please raise your hands if you think that technology is the biggest barrier. I see some hands. And the others, is that economics? Okay, that's very convincing. So, economics. I'll take economics with me. If we take economics versus logistics, we heard even also say logistics and regulation. I take these two together. Yeah. Okay, who still thinks that economics is the biggest challenge? Okay, that's about 5-ish, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that will be, and then logistics and regulation. Yeah, that's also much more. Logistics versus regulation versus safety and societal acceptance. Can you read my? Okay. You always end up, why didn't I start here? Logistics versus, so logistics and regulation. Okay, let's see. And safety and societal acceptance. Okay, so this would be then, I think, the biggest challenge. Okay, thank you very much. So that's a little bit of material to work with for the panelists. So now I'm going to ask the panelists, Carla, and I would like to ask Barend as well, and then I would like to ask Ming Onkwam, and now I have to take my phone because I have. There it is. And I would like to introduce Ming. Put on my glasses. I'm very happy, Ming, that you are also here. Ming Onkwam is the Director of Strategic Business for the Halliburton Consulting based in Houston. He is leading the sustainability initiatives across the world. He joined Halliburton in 2011 as Global Operation Director for Consulting with focus in the field development and the production practice areas. He has served in leadership, operation and management consulting roles across the world, including India, Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, China, Malaysia, Indonesia, and United States. Ming holds a bachelor and master's degrees in electronics engineering from Curtin University in Western Australia and executive development program at INSEAD School of Business, France, and Texas A&M Mays Business School. He is a certified project management professional. So thank you very much, also Ming, that you are here. And then finally, I would like to ask also Remco. because Remco was was asking the questions the last time, so now I'm going to ask him some questions. Remco is stepping in because, unfortunately, one of the panelists that I had in mind for this was ill. So, thank you very much. I will start up a slide because first I will ask Ming to give a short statement. And okay, Ming, we have the slide, I hope, online. Yes, thank you very much. Ming, please go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I think a little bit of context. I've been involved in a lot of discussion with operators, with the supply chains, with regulators, with finance, right? And when we introduced the question on hydrogen, we're all over the place, right? It's quite hard, especially for people who are new to this area, right? So I find that this one pager, it's useful to provide a framework. So that's kind of what I want to share. So on the first thing is that, when you say what's the challenges, right? What is the gaps? It depends, right? So it depends on the market development, right? If you are new, if you are a country who is new, I think Netherlands is quite the early adopters, right? With Japan and Germany, as you said. The market condition, the focus is different, right? The focus is in demonstrating the viability to develop the ecosystem, right? To show that, look, you can actually do this, right? So that's kind of the outcome. The delivery expected at different phases is different. So the second part is really, you want to try it out once you have the, first of a kind or second of a kind, right? And from technology perspective, whether you actually can drive the cost down. So you're actually pushing, push what can you do. And finally, at the market maturation stage, I think the focus is deliver cost competitiveness. It's a little bit equivalent of electricity. The LOC, right? The levelized cost of electricity. You're going to compete, right? So therefore the expectation is different. So that provides the context on the rest. The hydrogen value chain is straightforward. It's kind of a summary of what we have heard all day today. Between the upstream, which is basically supply, midstream, including storage, and downstream. And then the levers, the technology, policy, commercial, right? You can read. I'm not going to spend too much time. But I think it provides a useful sign. It's very consistent. I'm glad, right? I didn't know what was presented today, but I'm glad that it's consistent. But this provides a simple kind of framework when we open discussion on various things. So for example, I think in the US, the issues, it's, today the demand supply is about 14 billion cubic feet, right, of hydrogen, approximately. Just for size, it's about the production of the Permian Basin gas, right, approximately. That's the demand, and primarily for the industry. So what is the issue? The issue is the middle, the infrastructure. The infrastructure today, there is about 1,500 miles of pipeline, and they are shared between primarily dominated in Texas and Louisiana. So just kind of to give you specifics, so Texas is about 1,000 approximately. Louisiana is about 500, Alabama about 31 miles, and California is 14 miles. New York City is only 3 miles. So you can see you have huge country, you have all the, very widespread. So this is significant issues, right? So looking at these, when you talk about supply demand, what you want to do, it depends, right? What you are trying to do. So these are basically the hydrogen is powering for the industrial, right? So then you can use this kind of to say, look, if you want to talk about fuel cells, car, right, it's completely different issues.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ming. And we are going to have a few questions now for the panelists. And we want to really ask you from your perspectives, what would be the main barriers or what would be the main challenges for you which you run into? And maybe I can start with you, Carla. What would be for you, if you look at 2030 to 2050 and the upscaling is coming in, what would be actually the main issue for you?
Yes, thank you, Serge, for the question. I think I would like to mention two aspects that we are looking from the government side, from policy, where we are encountering challenges, I must say, for underground hydrogen storage, but also for large implementation of new technologies, and that's especially the social acceptance. So we see through all these 4 levels that Ming mentioned, technology, it's there. Of course, we can always improve it, and we can always make it more affordable, that it has a positive business case. But technology, there is more now a technology push than a technology pull, which is also making policy and regulation that has to speed up. And that's also taking place, we see in the Netherlands and the European Union, and we also see it in other regions of the world regarding hydrogen. But the social acceptance, the last point, I think this will be key if we want to succeed in this energy transition. And then the second point, which I haven't heard until today, and I think it's worth bringing it up, is especially the technical implementation of the infrastructure that's needed. We already have a shortage on a lot of sectors in the Netherlands with people to actually do the work in the health sector. We see it now in the airports. It's just if you have traveled internationally here to the Netherlands, it's a chaos. We don't have enough people, capacited people, to actually do the work that we need for the energy transition. And for hydrogen, I'm very happy to see these type of initiatives, because we need this, but we need this in all levels of education to actually be able to build the infrastructure that we need.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very important aspect indeed, what we are running into. If I look at Barend as a supervisor, at some point there will be big developments and the implementation is coming on. And what is your major concern there, actually? What is the challenge that you will be struggling with?
Not my main concern, but what could be, let's say, pretty big challenge is that what we see now for, let's say, for Zuidwending in the Netherlands, that they have done a good well test, and are now preparing a small storage test. But if they go bigger, then we need to have more, let's say, information on what kind of uncertainties there are in the underground. How can they manage the risks surrounding those uncertainties? And what I see is that I'm looking also at my colleague Hein, but what we see is that the main focus is on trying to get the hydrogen inside, but we also need to learn more on what the real effects could be on and what kind of risks that will take. And I'm not very worried on that the risks are not acceptable, but we need to know more on those uncertainties and how to deal with them. Because if you know more, then the uncertainties in the underground mostly get bigger. But how do you deal with that? And that's kind of a worry I got. That kind of research is not in balance with the other part of to making the business case properly.
Yeah, I fully agree also that the uncertainties is indeed really still big. Actually, we're still learning, and hopefully we can get them a little bit more smaller in the coming period.
And let's say if I look at the operators or look at the how do you call it, the businesses, if you are could be more transparent on what the uncertainties are, then and you could connect that to a good conversation with your neighbors, let's say citizens or other people in the local area, then you have a better starting position in your social acceptance. So that's and be more clear on the upfront on that area as well.
And Ming, if I look at you from the United States, we just made this figure here, and apparently society and safety was one of the major concerns. Is this also let's say, does this reflect the situation in the United States, or do you think it's quite different there in terms of barriers?
I think all the four barriers are, the levers are important, but I think we are today from the project perspective, right, the number one is project viability, how to de-risk the project. So I think the mindset is, it's a startup mindset, right, pretty much. Okay, how do we going to get money? Will we ever make money on this? Because there are quite significant challenges, as I already mentioned, regarding the infrastructure, for example, right? So people will start cluster small, right? If you see at the green hydrogen compared to the blue hydrogen, it will increase 50x, right, over the next 3-4 years. But there are clusters around power plant. So people are looking into how do you make money. So I think in the United States, my humble opinion, right, I'm not a policy maker. I think the project viability, the risking the project is the key.
Okay, thank you very much. And Remco, there's a lot of scientists here, and also you being from a technology institute, you try to look at it at a broad perspective. But what would be in your view, the main challenge if you look at hydrogen storage in the future?
Yeah, I think the main challenge there, of course, there's a lot of uncertainty still on the technical side, right, and safety. I mean, so one thing we're doing, of course, is to de-risk hydrogen storage in salt caverns and reservoirs by doing research together with industry partners, academia, like the HySpree project, the European HySpree project that we're coordinating, but also the Histories project is an example of that from Geostock, and there are other projects and that focus on de-risking by not looking at a specific site or reservoir, or we're trying to take a more holistic approach, a generic approach. For instance, also looking at geochemical reactions with hydrogen, not specifically on reservoir rock itself, but more fundamentally, how does pyrite react with hydrogen to form pyrrhotite, and what is the reaction rate, so that we can actually parameterize that into models that we can use to actually do field scale simulations, right? And learn about the behavior of a certain site in the end still. So that's more on the sort of closing the technology gaps. But I think also there's a lot of uncertainty in how much hydrogen storage will we need when in time. And this depends, I mean, of course, the market for hydrogen storage is then the next question. So how much are we going to produce from renewables in this case? How much are we going to use, for instance, for heating our homes and re-electrifying for backup power? So how big a role are these users going to play? Because these users are the users that have the most imbalance across the year, right? So if these users are not materializing, then and we stick to using hydrogen in continuous processes for chemical production, for instance, just naming one, then the need for hydrogen storage will be much reduced, right? So I guess there, from an investor perspective, people are also trying to forecast how this will develop, and that's what the business case also in the end relies on. Yeah.
So actually, also the challenges come in steps, and every new challenge result will come with a new challenge.
Exactly. Yeah.
Harry, I trust you are keeping track of some questions from the offline, the online audience. So maybe also give them.
There's one, if I can wait for you.
Yeah.
Microphone. So we have Suzanne Fellows from CMG is asking about, putting a comment about delivering it in time, as the timeline, and how are we addressing? There are some key challenges addressed by different sectors, but are we progressing so that we are in time ready for it to deliver?
Should I? Yeah. Well, at least what do we want to deliver, and in which time? It would be my follow-up question, but I think I understand the question. In the sense, we see now that in salt caverns, hydrogen underground storage is feasible. That is done in various other places in the world. Not the same type of cyclic pressures that of operation that we want to do, but we think that this could be feasible in the Netherlands. And therefore, the storage necessity for 2030, we think we can make it in time. With the current ambitions that we have set a target of 3 to 4 gigawatts self-production in the Netherlands of electrolyzers, installed electrolyzers. But we see from the European Commission now more ambitions with REPowerEU, with more imported hydrogen, more production in Europe. And then I worry if these ambitions are to be made with the amount of storage that we will need if we want to realize that for 2030 and beyond. So I think with the current level of ambition, it's already ambitious, but now it's even a bit unrealistic, actually. And that's a pity, because of course we need it as fast as possible, but all the limitations that were mentioned today, the technical, the safety, we need some more time to realize this.
Yeah, thank you. And is there anyone else from the audience, from the panelists, who would like to comment on this?
Yeah, I think from a technical perspective for salt cavern storage, we're well underway. We'll have several pilots and demonstrations well before 2030. I think even some sites will be operational before that time. Indeed, the further upscaling, depending on how much demand for storage will materialize. As Carla says, we might have an issue with the timing, because it's not possible to build that many sites in such a short time. So, and then for porous reservoir storage, I think what we should definitely aim for is to have several pilots in Europe, maybe even demonstrations with pure hydrogen before 2030. We currently have one, so the RAX Sun Storage 2030. I hear of a few other pilots in preparation. I think we should definitely have multiple pilots in different regions of Europe in this case, but also the wider the world, of course, to further prove that this is technically feasible and also safely.
I think from if you look from the money side, right? So today, the investment, the last I looked, is about 160 billion currently. But we need 500 billion to achieve, or at least plan for the target in 2030, right? So if you calculate, 160 represent 26%, right? So you have to fund these projects. Mm-hmm. Even with policy, you have to fund. So I think it's going to be challenging, the timing. But I think government alone is not enough. We have to activate the investment community.
Yeah, so that could speed up developments and make sure we are actually ensured to have the capacities in time.
Absolutely.
Last question.
Yes, please.
Last question from the audience is that now, knowing that societal embedding is very important, what scientists in universities or researchers should do more to enhance and accelerate the societal acceptance, apart from technical perspective as well? What is it that you're not doing there?
And I would like to add then also to that question, because that lines up with also my final question, and so you can take it with you. What kind of qualifications are actually required from the future scientists and the future people who are working in this energy transition, or this part of the energy transition? So I don't know who would like to pick up. And
I will start. Yes, I think. Again, I mentioned earlier on about startup, right? So the thinking is not about just like technical. Right? I met some of Dr. Hadi's students. You're looking at the silo very deep, but the issue is integration. We talk about interpersonal skill, right? Sometimes it's called soft skill, but it's really, really important. One of the fundamentals is listen and respond. Asking, so what? Is it material, right? How it connects to the whole the value system. And I think the third part is really key, which is what we are doing here, is networking, right? So I think enabling the collaborations and connecting basically, right? The higher level pictures, I think is really important.
And if you look, for example, at state supervision of mines, you see, Barend, a change of let's say, the type of people who are working at SoDM. Is the profile changing, or is it still the same? If you look at the energy transition challenges and also these kind of developments.
What we see, at least, and when we want to have new people, is that they are difficult to get. So, but. what I think is the basic question is what kind of qualifications do you need as an organization, let's say, not as a person, because as a person you have some kind of capabilities and some of them you don't have, but as a team you can mix them more, and what as a team or as an organization I would like to have a good combination of people who are very well educated in going in deep into the details, but also people who can connect the people who from seismic and from geological and who can connect those remarks from them towards the certain project. So you have type of generalists, but also very detailed people who have a detailed knowledge, and at this moment, we're struggling to get those people who are more detailed knowledge. But that's a thing we still have, but we want to improve that.
Can I add something to that? I totally agree. Interdisciplinary, that is very important. So not only be creative for all, especially, so not looking into the technology itself, but how it's embedded in the social aspects, and as well, yes, more diversity. Am I the first female speaker of the whole day? That needs to be changed fast. More diversity, more inclusion, different. That's the way we can learn, interculturally learn from each other, networking. But I see that more and more in the ministry, and that's definitely needed.
I see it also as integrators, if I also take the words from Bart. And I see that Hein, you would like to say something?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to add on the excellent comment from Ming about the soft skills. So as one of the most interesting things that I've done in the time that I've worked at State Supervision is talk to people who actually live next to mining sites. And we have to take those concerns seriously. Just not only explain, but be realistic in what we explain. Very often mining companies, in my experience, say this particular thing that you're worried about can never happen. But then something happens which is remarkably similar to it. And then all the trust is gone. So we were talking about being realistic, being uncertainties. And one of the things I see more and more, thank God, in companies, but also in our organization is be realistic about the uncertainties. People understand that there are uncertainties. You don't need to cushion them with false sense of security, which is never the case. Every activity has a risk associated to it. Getting up in the morning has a risk. If I stand up here to walk outside has a risk attached to it. But it's being able to communicate those risks realistically and honestly. I think that is a key skill for the future.
Thank you very much, Hein. And indeed, risks and how to deal with them. They are there, but how do we deal with them? Well, we are through the time. So Hadi pointed out to me that I have to finalize the session. But I would like to give the panel a very big applause. I was very happy they are here.